intellectual property right, that is Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act. Wait, I'll just screen share. Can you see the PPT? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, this act came into force in 2001. The whole purpose of this act coming into force was to protect the farmers of the country. So, India being more of a farmer based country rather than a breeder based country, it was very imperative that some proper legislation came into force to protect their varieties that they create, because the big giants like so I'll give you an example of a real case. So we all know that PepsiCo, the Lay's company that we eat. So the potatoes that Lay's use, it is a particular variety of potatoes. Now that variety was grown by some farmers in Gujarat, the Indian manufactured Lay's. So PepsiCo filed a case against those farmers on the ground that they have infringed their plant variety protection, because the potatoes that was used to create those Lay's were protected by PepsiCo. However, the case was taken back by them because of a lot of like lash out that they faced, because they said that farmers are nothing in front of a big giant as big as PepsiCo, and how could they file a case on some small farmers in some town in Gujarat? So this is how plant varieties is misused by big giants as well. So we'll move forward, and as you read, you'll understand more about the background. The Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Rights Act 2001 came into existence to provide for the establishment of an effective system for protection of plant varieties, the rights of farmers and plant breeders, and to encourage the development of new varieties of plants. Now, just like every IPR, we incentivize the creator. We give them money, royalty for their work, so that they keep creating more works. Similarly, if you incentivize farmers, they would also create new varieties. It had been considered necessary to recognize and protect the rights of farmers in respect of their contribution made at any time in conserving, improving, and making available plant genetic resources for the development of new plant varieties. It will also protect the plant breeder's right to stimulate investment for research and development for the development of new plant varieties. Now, this act, this whole IP of plant varieties and farmers' rights is very theoretical, so you need not get into a lot of technicalities. Just try to understand why this act came into force and just try to get an overview of the act. That's it for your level, like at your stage of law. If you ever pursue masters in IPR, you will be dealing with it in much more detail. So the IPs that you guys have to focus on right now are the ones that we did in the beginning: copyright, trademarks, patent, and designs. Also GIs. So the IPs that we are going to cover now are less important in comparison to them. So please focus more on those IPs. Now there are some definitions that we'll read. The first definition is that of a farmer. A farmer is one who cultivates crops by cultivating the land himself, or cultivates crops by directly supervising the cultivation of land through any other person, or conserves and preserves severally or jointly with any person any wild species or traditional varieties by traditionally trial and error method. What is a seed? It is a type of living embryo or propagate capable of regeneration and giving rise to a plant which is true to such type. Breeder, a person or group of persons, or a farmer or group of farmers, or any institution which has bred, evolved, or developed a variety. What is a variety? A plant grouping except microorganisms. Now, why are microorganisms accepted? Because they're subject matter of patent. So they are not covered under the ambit of a variety under plant varieties. Within a single botanical taxon of the lowest known mark, which can be defined by the expression of characteristics resulting from a given genotype. Now, all these things you need not remember, it is only for your knowledge. Distinguished from any other plant grouping by expression of at least one of the said characteristics, considered as a unit with regard to its suitability for being propagated, which remains unchanged after such propagation. includes propagating material of such variety, extant variety, transgenic, farmer's variety, and essentially derived variety. So the kinds of varieties that are mentioned in the last line are basically the types of varieties that the Indian Act has. So we will be discussing of what a farmer variety is, what is a extant variety, and essentially derived variety. We'll do that later. Farmer's variety is one which has been traditionally cultivated and evolved by the farmers in their fields, or is a wild relative or a land race of a variety about which the farmers possess common knowledge. Now, these kinds of varieties you should know. What is a farmer's variety, which has been cultivated by the farmers in their own fields, or is a relative of any race which is commonly known to all farmers. So it is developed from some common language. From some common knowledge. So this is the first kind. The second one is extant variety. It is notified under any variety which is notified under Section 5 of the Seeds Act, or farmer's variety, or a variety about which there is common knowledge, or any other variety which is in public domain. Now, extant variety is also called common pool variety because it has all kinds of varieties under it. It has farmers also covered under it. It has common knowledge one also. It has public domain one also. So extant variety is the one which has a common pool of all varieties. So it is the widest ambit variety, you can say. Essentially derived variety, I will tell you in short what this is. So there is one variety, say A, and we derive another variety from A, but the second variety retains its own characteristics. So it is separable, it has its own individuality, but it is derived from another variety. So you need not read the technical definition. If you want, you can refer from the PPT. Now, how do we register for a plant variety? So if you are a farmer and you've developed a new variety, you have mixed two seeds and you've invented it yourself. How do you register it? Now, one important aspect that you guys have to remember, plant varieties cannot be patented in India. That's why we have this act. In USA, plant varieties are covered under patent only. They don't have any separate act. But India gives more importance to farmers. As I said earlier, India is a farmer-based country. So we came up with a separate legislation to protect them so that they're not overpowered by patentees or the patent laws, which are more scientific and technologically or technology driven. Plant varieties are more farmer friendly. This whole act is very farmer friendly. So we will cover three aspects here: who can apply, what kinds of varieties can be registered, and what cannot be registered. So excluded subject matter. Section 14 deals with the fact that who can apply for a plant registration. Any person claiming to be the breeder, any successor of the breeder, any person being the assignee of the breeder if the breeder has assigned his rights to any third party, any farmer or group of farmers or community of farmers who are claiming to be the breeder, any person authorized by a person in a prescribed manner specified under A to D to make application on his behalf. So all the people that are mentioned in the first 4 points, any person who are authorized by these four people can also file. Any university or publicly funded agricultural institution claiming to be the breeder can also file. Now, what is the criteria for registration? So for all IPRs, we've done what can be registered, what cannot be registered. We've done exceptions to infringement and whatnot. So similarly for plant varieties, we have criteria. Now, this is called the Enders criteria. So if you see, the first one is novelty, distinguishability, uniformity, and stability. So we call this Enders because we take the first letter of each word, NDUS. So it's called the Enders criteria. The first one being novelty. If the propagating or harvested material of such variety has not been sold or otherwise disposed of by or with the consent of its breeder or his successor for the purpose of exploitation of such variety in India earlier than 1 year or outside India, in cases of trees or vines earlier than 6 years. So we have a time period of novelty. For varieties, it's 1 year, and in case of trees or vines, it's earlier than 6 years. Second point is it must be clearly distinguishable by at least one essential characteristic from any other variety whose existence is a matter of common knowledge in any country. So, for example, there are various varieties of potatoes that are sold in India. in various regions of the country depending on the geographical conditions and climate and soil, etc. So if you come up with this different kind of or a new kind of potato variety, it must have at least one different characteristic from the other potatoes that are available in the market. It might be similar in many respects because obviously you can't invent a new vegetable, but you can invent a variety of it. So one characteristic must be distinguishable. Uniformity, if subject to the variation that may be expected from a particular feature of propagation, it is sufficiently uniform with essential characteristics. So there must be some sense of uniformity. So if we take the potato example only, the uniform characteristics of potatoes must be present in your variety as well. Stable, if its essential characteristics remain unchanged after repeated propagation in the case of a particular cycle of propagation at the end of each cycle. So the variety must be stable in itself. It must not keep changing as you propagate it or as you further cultivate it. It must be stable in nature. See, plant varieties are very sensitive in the sense that the quality has to be very up to the mark because people consume it ultimately. So stability and uniformity are there, which you will not find under any IPR, any other IPR. So this NDIS criteria you guys have to remember. If you get a question on the protection of plant varieties, this NDIS criteria has to be there in your answer. What cannot be registered? A new variety shall not be registered if the denomination given to such variety, denomination is basically the grouping in which it is placed, is not capable of identifying such variety, consists solely of figures, is liable to mislead or cause confusion concerning characteristics, value identity of such variety, or the identity of breeder of such variety. So if you mislead or confuse the public in any way, it will not be registered. It is not different from every denomination which designates a variety of the same species or of a closely related species registered under this act. Now, also, guys, for writing answers in my paper, you need not write the same language that is there in any PPT or any BEAR Act. As long as you're able to put across your point in your own words, I'm okay with that. So if you want to club up the points and write it in one paragraph of what you make out from the points, it is totally okay. You'll get full marks if you're correct. So you need not use all the technical words that are there. Is likely to deceive the public or cause confusion regarding the identity of the variety, is likely to hurt religious sentiments of any class or section of citizens of India, is prohibited for use as a name or emblem for any purposes mentioned under Section 3 of the Emblems Act. Now, if you remember, we had a similar criteria in trademarks also, that any name or anything which is prohibited under the Emblems Act cannot be registered as a trademark. So similarly, we have it here also. Is compromised is it must be comprised. Is comprised of solely or partly geographical name. So your plant variety cannot be just a geographical name. It has to be something else, something distinguishable. Now, what is the procedure of registration? We've done who can apply for registration, what is the criteria, the NDIS criteria, what cannot be registered. Now, how the procedure goes about in the Act. The first step is application. First, you apply, then the office will see whether to accept it, to amend it, or to reject it. Then the application will be advertised, oppositions will be called for, and then finally, if there is no opposition, the certificate will be issued. So the procedure is very similar to all other IPRs. Section 14, 16 and 18 deals with application. So 14 tells us about the application, 16 tells us who can apply, that we've already done, and 18 tells us the contents or what is to be included in the application. An application shall be with respect of a variety. So one application will contain one variety. State the denomination assigned to the variety by the applicant. So which grouping you're placing your variety in, that denomination has to be mentioned. Be accompanied by an affidavit sworn by the applicant that such variety does not contain any gene or gene sequence involving terminator technology. Terminator technology are called basically suicide seeds. So they have the capacity of killing all the seeds around them and to stop propagation. So terminator technology is a prohibited technology. So an affidavit has to be filed by the applicant along with the application that any gene or gene sequence of in his variety does not contain terminator technology. Be in such form as may be specified by regulations. If there are any other regulations that are in force when you are applying for your variety, you have to be in compliance with them. Contain a complete passport data of the parental line. Be accompanied by a statement containing brief description of the variety showing novelty, distinctiveness, uniformity, and stability. So you have to give a proper statement describing that you are in compliance of the Enders criteria. Be accompanied by such fees as may be prescribed. Contain a declaration that the genetic material or parental material is lawfully acquired, that you have not broken any law while obtaining the genetic material or the parental material. Be accompanied by such other particulars as may be prescribed. So any other particulars that the Act might want, you will also put that in your application. These terms and conditions or the contents are provided under Section 18. After you've applied for your application, the registrar will see whether to accept it or amend it or reject it. After an inquiry, if the registrar thinks fit with respect to particulars contained in such application, may accept the application absolutely. Or he may subject the application to such conditions or limitations as he deems fit under Section 20. He can also reject the application. Under Section 21, the application is advertised. When an application for registration is accepted, it is advertised in the prescribed manner, calling objections, opposition as we call it, from the interested persons in the manner according to Section 21. So, like in patents, also we did grounds of opposition under Section 25, pre-grant, post-grant. Similarly, in here also we call for opposition after advertisement. Any person within 3 months from the date of advertisement of an application on payment of prescribed fee give notice in writing in the prescribed manner to the registrar of his opposition to the registration. The grounds of opposition are that the person opposing is entitled to the breeder's right as opposed to the applicant. So the first ground is that the person is claiming that I am the breeder and the applicant is not the breeder. So I am opposing on that ground. That the variety is not registrable under the Act. If you are an interested person and you feel that the variety is not fulfilling the Enders criteria, then you can file for it. You can file for an opposition. That the grant of certificate of registration may not be in public interest. That it might be harmful to any aspect of the public. It might be harmful to some religious sentiment. It might be not in favor of public health. Anything that it is against public interest. That the variety may have an adverse effect on environment. So environment obviously is a very subjective matter. The opposer has to prove that how the variety can be harmful to the environment. There is no formula to decide all this. It will totally depend on case to case. Now, what is the time period of registration? Section 24, Clause 6 of the Act provides that the certificate of registration shall be valid for 9 years in case of trees and vines and 6 years in case of other crops. You have to remember this. It may be renewed, reviewed for the remaining period on payment of fees, subject to the condition that the total period of validity shall not exceed, in cases of trees and vines, 18 years from the date of registration. In case of extant varieties, 15 years from the date of notification of that variety by the central government. In other cases, 15 years from the date of registration. So the time period varies from the class of variety. So trees and vines, the maximum time period for protection is 18 years. Extant varieties is 15 years, and other cases also 15 years. So there is no single time period for plant variety protection. So you must remember all the different years, the durations. Now we come to farmers' rights. Now we've completed about plant varieties, kinds of varieties, how to apply, who can apply, what can be registered, what cannot be registered. Now we come to farmers' rights. Section 39 talks about farmers' rights. This section number is important. You have to remember this. A farmer who has bred or developed a new variety shall be entitled for registration and other protections in like manner as a breeder of a variety. The farmer's variety shall be entitled for registration if the application contains declarations as specified under section 18. All the contents of application that we did under 18, it talks about that. A farmer who is engaged in the conservation of genetic resources, of land races and wild relatives of economic plants and their improvement through selection and preservation shall be entitled for recognition and reward from the gene fund, provided that the material so selected and preserved has been used as donors of genes in varieties registrable under this act. A farmer shall be deemed to be entitled to same, use, sow, re-sow, exchange, share, or sell his farm produce. So these are the rights that a farmer has: to use, sow, re-sow, exchange, share, or sell his farm produce. Seed, subject to the farmer shall not be entitled to sell branded seeds. So the farmer can only sell his own seeds. He cannot sell seeds of any other brand claiming to be his. According to section 39(2), where any propagating material of a variety registered has been sold to a farmer with some expected performance under given conditions, if such material fails to provide such performance, the farmer may claim compensation before the authority. Notice will be given to the breeder, there will be a hearing of parties, and the breeder may be directed to pay such compensation as it deems fit. We also have this is the last topic under plant varieties. We have an option of compulsory licensing as well. The act provides for, now I'm not getting into why they are granted because we've already covered it in detail under patents. So you know how and why compulsory license provision is there under intellectual property law. So I'm not getting into the detailing of it. The act provides for the grant of compulsory license under certain circumstances. The power to grant compulsory license vests in the authority. Any person interested may make an application to the authority at any time after the expiry of 3 years from the date of issue of certificate of registration. So after a person gets his protection on plant variety, before 3 years, no application can be filed. After 3 years, any person can file for an application for compulsory license of a variety alleging that the reasonable requirements of the public for seeds or other propagating material of the variety have not been satisfied, or that the seed or other propagating material of the variety is not available to the public at a reasonable price, and pray for the grant of a compulsory license to undertake production, distribution, and sale of the seed or other propagating material of that variety. So the grounds are very similar to that of patents if you look at it, that the reasonable requirements of the public are not met or it is not available at affordable prices. Every application is to contain a statement of the nature of the applicants. Are there any queries? Anything that you guys did not understand or you thought was just went over your head, or if I was too fast because I didn't get to know I was in the zone. So if you guys have any query or you want me to repeat anything, please ask me. Okay. Since we've completed it before time, I want you guys to write 2-3 things in designs that were left. So please open your notes where you were writing about designs, wherever you last left. And I will share the PPT after the class. Please go through it yourself. And if you've not understood something or something was confusing, please ask me separately if you want. I think the last topic that we wrote was infringement, right? In designs. Can someone confirm?
Ma'am, we were writing about representation sheet.
Representation sheet. You did not write the case on infringement yet? The last thing you wrote
No.
was representation sheet.
Yes, ma'am. Section 44 we were writing and we wrote about representation sheet.
Okay.
We were discussing procedure and application for design. So in it, we have discussed section 5, 6, and 44.
Okay. So you write down the test of infringement that is followed in design law, which is called common observer test. I'll write it in the chat box also. Common observer test. This is the test that we follow for determining infringement of designs. And write a case under this. I'll write it. Please refer to the chat box and write the case. Under the case, write down, prior to this case, the courts applied a two-step test to determine infringement. Write the first point. Ordinary observer test. Under this, write, when two designs are substantially the same, and if the resemblance is such as to deceive an observer, inducing him to purchase one design, supposing it to be another, supposing it to be another, this test shall be applied. Next para, under the same point, the observer should be the observer should be ordinary, and highlight ordinary. In bracket, write down not a technical expert. Not a technical expert. Moreover, moreover, the design is to be considered the design is to be considered as a whole as a whole and it shall not be and it shall not be compared element by element. It shall not be compared element by element. Now write the second point. Point of novelty test. Point of novelty test. Under this, write down this is used this is used if the accused design if the accused design also appropriated also appropriated the novelty in the protected design. Also appropriated the novelty in the protected design. Under this test, the court must identify the novelty aspect in the protected design, comma, the features that distinguish it from the prior art, and determine whether the accused design also includes these features. Now, after this write down, in 2005, this is after the case, it's not part of the case. In 2005, the court struck down the point of novelty test holding that it was inconsistent with the judgment of now write down a case. I'm writing it in the chat box. Please refer to the chat box and write the case. And write down in the case. Actually, it's a long case. It's like a whole page and the time is almost up. So we'll start in the next class only on Monday. And after that, we'll begin with the next IPR, that is integrated circuits. and layout designs. That also we have to do in very brief. It is like only the overview has been included in your syllabus. But the last IP after that, that is of trade secrets or confidential information, is important. So I will cover it in the end, and there we will discuss and write notes. But for integrated circuits, also I'll make a PPT and I'll upload the plan for IT PPT after the class. Please go through it whenever you get time and ask me for doubts because your end semester exams are very near. So you guys should start preparing. Is there any query regarding anything? Okay, then I'll wind up and I'll see you guys on Monday. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.